a person who is a narcissist or a manipulator, they will easily and they can easily detect the ways that you might feel unworthy or the places where you need some kind of affirmation or love in your life. And they
And we do have Cerita Ibrahim here with us. Cerita, girl, come on in. Come a little closer.
Yes, it is my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Great to see you, Mama. A warm Caribbean. Is it snowy or cold where you're at yet? Or are you?
It's rainy today, but it's not cold.
Oh,
Thank you for
I was like, a
asking.
warm Caribbean welcome, but it's just rain. It's okay. We have that too. But welcome, welcome. Thank you so much, Sarita, for being here and for gracing us with your presence. So, Sarita Ibrahim, she is a woman on a mission to bring love back.
That is
Love, love, love all around. All right, and
mhm.
she's here to just delve into love, trauma, and the whole works and connect us and teach us and educate us and empower us. Sarita, I'm not going to go much into introducing you. So I'm just asking you in a nutshell to just tell us about you and your mission, really, and what you stand for.
Absolutely. I'm Cerita Abraham, also known as the Whole Therapist. And basically, I help women heal trauma and self sacrifice through self love. As a therapist, trauma is my specialty. And so many people don't recognize the symptoms of trauma and the impact of trauma, which is why I've made it my personal mission.
Yes, yes, trauma.
Mhm.
Trauma indeed. Sarita, what is trauma? What is
Well, we gonna jump right in. I see you gonna
trauma?
lead this charge, so I'm gonna follow you. But
Yes.
trauma is really a sense of feeling helplessness, a sense of distress. Now, trauma can be what we call capital T traumas, which can be abuse, neglect, even emotional abuse. It could be a car accident, it could be a divorce, but it can also be what we call little T traumas. So we can be traumatized by racism. We can be traumatized by poverty, community violence. We can also be traumatized by having our emotions neglected and ignored.
Wow. Yes. So these are the little things that we need to be conscious of, and the little things,
Absolutely.
okay, that holds us back. All right. There are different types of trauma. Is there anything more specific, or what you outlined a while ago? That's just it. Physical, emotional.
So there are different types of trauma. What research has shown though is that the impact of trauma is similar in terms of how the body responds. So with trauma, um, okay, let me explain what I see a lot. And because we can talk about physical trauma, but with trauma, there is a type of called complex PTSD. And with CPTSD, it's trauma that has occurred over time. So it can be abuse, neglect, emotional abuse. And what happens is those symptoms are a little bit different. They're a little more invisible and insidious. So you will have symptoms like toxic shame. So for people who've experienced trauma and they wonder why they don't feel worthy or they don't feel like they're enough, it could be tied to their past experiences, self-sabotage, feeling like you can't draw comfort from a relationship. It could also show up in ways, of course, in how you relate, how you communicate. So complex PTSD is not something that is typically diagnosed, but it's more about it creates relational issues for people and individuals.
Okay, okay, relational issues. All
Mhm.
right, so that's where trauma bond. When I came across that term, I'm so curious about it. Yes, Sarita, talk to us that relational issue and that trauma bond. Yes,
Yes. So, can I just start out? Because I had to do some research on Caribbean culture, and I
yes.
would love to read a very small clip that I found in Girls Globe, and it's called Trouble in Paradise, Jamaica's Culture of Misogyny.
Mm-hmm.
And dance hall music, which we know is so popular and everyone loves it. But I want to tie this into understanding trauma bonds because we also have to understand our culture because culture creates norms and it creates how we think and how we perceive it and basically in a lot of cases how we relate. So dance hall music is almost always characterized by its misogyny and promotion and the denigration of women. Socially, women are expected to put up with catcalling and casual harassment, with men seeing it as complimentary. Sexual violence and
Mhm.
rape can be an offshoot of this, and rates of sexual violence on the island can be elevated. So, in a culture of poverty and masculinity begetting violence, it basically means that being aggressive is masculine, being sexually aggressive is masculine, and rape is a sexually aggressive behavior. So, why am I talking about this? Because
Mhm.
when you look at the culture, you understand what has been normalized, what is considered to be normal. So the idea that a man has more power, has more control, can be something that we all deal with when we're in a patriarchy, let's be honest. But also
Yes.
understanding what women consider to be normal and how they relate. So how this connects to trauma bonds is you have someone typically called a narcissist, and this
Mhm.
person has all the power. They love admiration. They feel superior. And the people that they are typically attracted to, in this case, we're talking about men and women relationships. So the women that they are attracted to would uh, they typically don't set firm boundaries. They don't ask for what they need. They don't communicate what they need, and they don't demand what they need. They are typically in a place of being very empathetic, being very helpful, and sometimes they need to feel needed. And so
Mhm.
this sets the individuals up for a dynamic of trauma bonding and dysfunctional relationships.
Okay. Okay. All right. So it's because there's this need, like they're lacking in self-worth, self-love, self-esteem.
Yes.
There's this
Yes.
crave, and as such, they attract these kind of partners in their life.
Yes, absolutely. I'm so glad you brought that point up because we have a term for this in the therapy psychology world, and it's called codependence. And that's
Yes.
why I started out talking about complex PTSD, because if you feel that you are lacking and you have this need and it's based on your childhood, a person who is a narcissist or a manipulator, they will easily and they can easily detect the ways that you might feel unworthy, or the places where you need some kind of affirmation or love in your life, and they will set it up so that it looks like they can give you everything that you want to meet all your needs, but it's just a facade in order to get you bonded to them so they can get whatever it is they want from you.
Yes, yes, indeed. And I've seen that in certain relationships with my friends, and it's as if they can't do without this person, but yet still the person is just like basically the way they speak to them. Oh my God, belittling them, not caring.
Exactly.
I mean,
Exactly.
like, then how can you stay in that? And it's not like just 1 year or 2 years, So,
Well, what happens and the reason why people stay is because, first of all, this person sets it up with what is called love bombing. So they give you all this love and attention and excitement in the beginning, and it feels like they're your soulmate, and it usually happens very quick, right? Because they want to establish this place in your life very quickly. So you don't have a chance to really establish your boundaries. You're so wrapped up in the emotional aspects of it. And then what happens is the next phase is the devaluation. So the criticism, that person changes how they're interacting, and they might give you what's called intermittent reinforcement. So they might love you sometimes. Sometimes I might be good to you. Sometimes I might give you a compliment, and then I'm going to be emotionally abusive. So they set it up to where they're in a cycle, and that person who is attached will continuously be fighting to get that love back, that attention back, that thing that never really, really existed because they were just playing a role in order to get you in the first place. But they set the bar so high, you can never reach the bar, but you're just trying to do whatever it is that they are requesting of you in order to get that love that you never get.
yeah,
It
and
becomes
I mean,
addictive.
to play on somebody like that is so selfish, though. Those narcissists, they know what they're doing.
Well, when you say selfish, it's true. But someone who has narcissistic characteristics, this is how they relate. They don't know how to have healthy relationships because of their childhood experiences. So they have on a mask, and this mask is I'm superior. I'm supposed to be in control. People are supposed to worship me and do what I say. So they don't really have that empathy like the codependent does. They're not in contact with it. They think that they're always right.
Yeah. I mentioned with one of the speakers before. I don't remember if it's Rose or whomever. There's a food for thought quote that I have written down here that says, "We accept the love we think we deserve," and it's by Stephen Chbosky. We accept the love we think we deserve. But Iyanla had said something in one of her videos that says, "People do what they do, the way they do it, based upon who they are and the information they have at the time." And you made mention about how they were socialized.
Exactly.
Yeah?
What you just described is people love in the way that is familiar with them, familiar to them. So if I grew up in an environment where, let's say, my parents were invalidating, my parents were, you do everything how I say, the way I say it, and they disregard the child's needs, they do what's called gaslighting. This may have been talked about in one of your earlier sessions. But if a child is shaped to believe that their presence isn't respected, their voice isn't necessary or meant to be heard, or their childhood needs, so what they do is they grow up basically discarding their own needs and they live for other people, and so they continue these same kinds of relationships as adults.
So it carry over in their adulthood, in their
That's
work,
our
in
generational
everything.
trauma. That's
Oh
our
my gosh, what's her baggage? All right, Sarita, Deacon is on the line and he says, "Is this why women say men who beat them love them?" Something like
that they are in trauma bonds, because what happens when you're in the trauma bond, you can do what's called idealizing with your, oh, look at you, hi, my love. You can idealize your abuser so you can protect them, and denial and repression are real. This is how we cope. But in a trauma bond, you do overly identify with the abuser and you will minimize the abuse. That's how the bond is maintained. And that's exactly what it doesn't have to be just interpersonal relationships or intimate relationships. It could be in friendships. It can be in organizations that a member is a part of, that they can build trauma bonds and identify with their abuser. But again, that is because that is how they've learned to love.
okay, how they have learned to love, so they settle for less and all that abuse.
I see a comment from Robin, and exactly, the carryover is dangerous baggage.
Oh, and but that is so powerful and profound, though, because a lot of us don't know that we have all this baggage that we need to whether from generation or just being a child coming up, and we need to heal and unburden ourselves so that we can find that fulfillment in life. Sarita, it's your platform. Talk.
Well, you've been taking over, honey, preaching, and I'm not mad, but thank you. So, I do want to talk a little bit about, since we're talking about trauma bonding, is the stages. Because remember, for a trauma bond, it starts out idealizing, devaluing, and then discarding. And so the first part is love bombing. That's what I just talked about. They give you that excitement and that love. And then the trust and dependency is built. So you begin to rely on that person. You begin to become addicted to whatever version of love that they're giving to you. And then the criticism sets in.
Yes.
Exactly. And when the criticism steps in, remember, narcissists and people like this, they love to cross boundaries. That's how they maintain control. And so the gaslighting, which means that a narcissist will sort of manipulate your reality, tell you that something that happened, it didn't happen. They'll spin it. We've seen that with our ex-president. And the control, yeah, girl, honey, yeah, he was the spin king, manipulator, but that's for another topic.
Yes.
And then we have the control sets in, and then the loss of self.
Mhm.
Authenticity and self-awareness is sacrifice for the relationship. So people lose contact with themselves, and that is what creates the addiction. They are addicted to the cycle. Your brain is actually chasing that dopamine, that high, that love bombing that they gave you in the beginning, and the little intermittent crumbs of love. That's how you become addicted. That's why a bond can be so much harder to break in a trauma bond versus a healthy relationship.
Wow. Yes, you're addicted. You know, you can't breathe, you can't eat.
Literally.
It's a
Yes,
lifeline. So,
exactly.
Sarita, so how can we handle that in a relationship? You know, can we set up boundaries? How can we help ourselves as individuals, as women or men in that relationship?
So first we need to understand what boundaries are, and boundaries are limits. So they let you know where you end and another person begins. And for many women who get caught up in trauma bonds, they never really set boundaries. Their boundaries were never respected as a child. They were not taught about boundaries. And so they continue that pattern into their relationships, and there will be people who will absolutely abuse that. And so boundaries are self-protection and
Mhm.
are a requirement in healthy relationships. So once you're in a trauma bond, of course, experiences like this conference are so helpful because it helps you to become aware and to see the pattern, because so many people get caught up in blaming themselves and trying to fix it and putting no accountability on the partner. So understanding that whatever experiences that you've had in the past, they do not define you as a person, because you are a spiritual being having a human experience. So
Yes.
this is the opportunity to lean into your faith and to own and to recognize that even if you don't know how to have a healthy relationships, that you absolutely deserve to be loved and to be cared for and to be respected. So you can seek support, you can seek counseling, you can seek support groups. And of course, you can always come to my class, yeah, Love University, and we'll get you all the way together. Hey, Robin is smiling because she's a member. And
Awesome.
so
Yes.
really recognizing that, and listen here, for some of you, there are some women who will be watching this who they're married, they have children, so they may not be able to break the bond so quickly. So you have to be willing to create a plan for what it is that you're going to do, because your safety is of the utmost importance. So you may want to go little minimal contact. If there's kids involved, you have the opportunity to plan it out. It isn't hopeless, because you have to maintain hope to protect you and the sanity of your children so that they don't pass this on. So,
Mhm.
and focus on your healthy relationships, the relationships that are supportive of you, that you can lean on, and challenge yourself to do new things, to experience things that maybe you never did before, because it helps you to build up confidence.
Mhm. So there comes a time when you need to know you and take that stance. You know, as fearful as it may seem, and you're scared out of your wits, and you need to develop and build you as an individual. You know, and that's so that is so true. And you know, Sarita, you answer all the main questions that I have. Let's have a discussion. Yes. So, all right, there's these narcissists have a way, you know, to manipulate and play on us, right? As mentioned before, to
Mhm,
control us. And
mhm,
then they do what they want to do and
mhm,
think it's okay because they have you locked down. So
mhm,
you ain't going nowhere.
mhm.
Okay. But what I saw, well, you point out a few signs that they can look for when they're approaching you, right? How they approach you, things they say, and all. Is there any more? Give us like probably any more we can look at.
So, a healthy relationship, it takes time to build the bonds. So, if a man or a woman is approaching you and they're in love in 15 minutes, They're wanting instant relationship, instant, I want to marry you and you're the one. And it's not to say that there is no such thing as you're the one, but to understand that someone could be boundary testing. They could be setting you up for these dynamics. So really having the self-awareness to pay attention to red flags, to trust your gut, trust your instinct, because it never lies. The
Mhm.
divine within you is always right and always on time, but it's us who get hard-headed and we
Yes,
don't listen. We
yes,
make
and we whoop it
excuses.
for it. We end up in the situation that cost us, and then we blame God. Where are you? You should have
Exactly.
have free
Exactly.
will. We get the signs. We
Exactly.
get the signs. They're disobedient.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
you trusting yourself in these when you're beginning, and really trusting yourself is a lifestyle. Okay, it's something that if you don't have it, you have to cultivate it for yourself, because you will always be disregarding yourself and teaching other people to do the same.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And you gotta listen. And you I think also too, if women feel like, or anyone watching feels like they need a person, that they need to be loved by someone else, that they have this deep, this void within them that they're looking for another person to fill, that's going to set you up for some toxic relationships and some toxic individuals all the time, because there
Uh-huh.
is no human person that can ever fill that void. Divine love can, your own love can, but no person can ever give you enough to make you feel whole. You must do that on your own. What do you say to the woman who is scared of the consequences they have to come to know when they step out of line, to find the courage to seek the help when they need help, or even the men? And so I have to acknowledge that there are some relationships where there may be physical abuse, where there may be real tangible consequences to not to stepping out of line, to not doing what someone wants you to do and they're accustomed to you doing. And this is why, one, I would say that there must be a plan put in place so that safety is always maintained. Because if you know who you're dealing with, and you know that this person has the tendency to become violent, then you must protect yourself and you must be responsible about it, because this whole interaction and this whole virtual conference is not about putting people in situations that will harm them. It's
Right.
about taking the steps and healing from within, and it may be a step by step by step process.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So you must take care of yourself, and you must recognize the situation that you're in and honor yourself. Now, if this person is not physical and maybe they just, have emotional vomit, maybe they're, emotionally or verbally abusive, you can take that, because that ain't gonna kill you. So let me say that it ain't gonna kill you, but I'm not saying to put yourself in any kind of situation. Again, I'm also saying that your tolerance and your tolerance and your level to be able to withstand that must be addressed, because that person knows your triggers, they knows your weaknesses, they know the things that will get you going, or that will get you to comply, because you just don't want to deal with the hassle. So understanding the way that they are manipulating you or pushing your buttons is the fact that you have buttons. So the work really is not about them, it's about you. It's about you continuing to do the work on yourself, so that you don't allow yourself to remain entrapped in these entanglements where someone is emotionally abusing you.
Right, right. And I had a similar question to that, about character assassination without no physical evidence, and you just answered it. There are two more. I think there are two more, three more in the chat. Can you?
Uh-huh. So will you describe the discarding phase? So this can look different depending on the relationship, but discarding means exactly what it says. So when it comes to narcissism or manipulative behaviors, um in the psychology world, they're called supply. So you have the narcissist and the person that is giving them all this steam that they need, all of the love and admiration is called the supply. So if the supply runs low or that person isn't getting their fix or their feel from that person, then they will easily or they can easily discard and move on to the next supply. So
Oh,
yes, the discarding can look first thing can start out emotional and then they can actually physically leave, but they are no longer involved in that cycle, and it can leave a person feeling like valueless, feeling um you like they have no closure and literally feeling like they've been discarded because essentially they have.
okay, okay, okay. Wow. Lots of nuggets there. Rita, you just said, yeah, I'm dumbstruck. You see why I said you had to talk?
Surprise, because you always got to come back, honey.
You see why I said you just had to bring this part because a lot of us are lacking knowledge in this
Yes,
emotional trauma bond and all these things that we need to know. We need to know the demons
absolutely.
we're contending with. Physical, spiritual,
Absolutely.
emotional, personal.
You
You
have to
know?
know the demons and you have to know your own demons, because it is the
Yes.
demons within you that you
In
haven't addressed that attract these kind of toxic
to
people.
you. Yes. And we need to own that. You're running
Yes,
away and you're running away, but you're running from yourself. Fix
that's
fear.
exactly
Fix
that's
fear.
exactly
Fix
what we are doing, is running away from
You have
ourselves
to run from this
into a toxic landfill.
again. Exactly. You know? Suicidal, emotional suicide.
Exactly. Exactly.
Wow, this is so profound and so, I mean, a lot of information here. Sarita, you need more time. You need like half a day to come and teach us.
Well, I'm available. I thank you for inviting me. You are doing wonderful work with just supporting people and healing
Yes.
and giving them the tools. So I'm grateful for being here with you.
Thank you for saying yes at the first chance. Woo! She was like, yeah, no. Thank you. Thank you.
Exactly. Exactly. I'm super excited about all of this. So, and you know what? If you've been in a trauma bond or you leave a trauma bond, then I encourage you to take a break from dating. Take a
Okay.
break so that you can begin to address the wounds, because that's really what we're talking about. You
Yes.
have two people who are wounded getting together, trying to meet each other's needs, and they're calling it love. It is not love. It is the illusion of love. It's a substitute for love. So I encourage each and every one of you to not settle for a substitute of love, because you are worthy. You are, in essence, made of love. And don't ever deny that.
Right. Don't settle for any substitute of love. You are
Exactly.
worthy. You are made for love. All right.
Exactly. There's a question about a resource for escape planning.
Oh,
And you're welcome, Linda, to contact me on social media, because the escape planning, it depends on the specific situation. So there are community resources, for example, with domestic violence. There needs to be a very clear plan. So, for example, it might start out with getting all of your personal documents. So, it may be getting your birth certificate, getting your social security card, because people who are highly controlling, they want to control every aspect of your life, right? To keep you bound. So it may be in phases, and there are organizations who work with women or people who are victims of domestic violence, and they will basically plan out a very detailed escape plan, because remember, your safety is of the utmost importance. So it depends on your specific situation, because I don't want to give you anything generic, because your safety is important to me too. So
yes.
you really have to take everything into account, especially if there are children involved.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Awesome. Take everything in account, especially if there are kids involved. Protect your
Mhm.
children because they too are learning. Children live
Exactly.
what
And you have
they.
to protect them too. So there is a there is a phase of detaching yourself and the planning and preparing that must be done properly.
All right. Know
Mm.
how to detach, planning and prepare. All right, Sarita, I guess that's a wrap.
Do want to say, let me say this, because so many women I know, and I've been this woman, that they feel that, oh, people just take advantage because I love too much, because I'm so giving, and I just, want to help people. And that may be true. But what many don't recognize is that they're denying the ways that they are participating in their own abuse. So it's not enough to say, oh, I'm just so giving. You need to unpack that, because that means that you're doing a lot of self-abandonment and self-sacrifice. For what? For what purpose? That's what you got to get down to. So if it's you trying to get some substitute love, then you got to get clear about that and get honest about it. So some of those symptoms are low self-worth, dishonesty, and denial. If you have control issues, because many people in these situations, even women, they think that they're the ones in control. Oh, I'm just trying to make sure that, he doesn't drink too much, so I'm controlling him. No, you're being controlled by his addiction. You're being controlled by whatever his thing is that you're trying to help fix. But you
Mm-hmm.
don't want to see that, because you see it as, oh, I'm so helpful. So you have to be willing to recognize your self-sacrificing nature, and how you are teaching people that you are to be sacrificed. So
Yes.
everyone has a responsibility in their relationships. It's not just the person who is on the outside extremely toxic. Everyone has to look within to be able to determine what is attracting these trauma bonds, or why they're in trauma bonds. And it's never because you're a bad person or you're broken. It's never that. It just means that you've learned to love in a way that isn't healthy.
Right, right, right. So it's not so much your fault. It's what you were exposed to, the unhealthy love that you
Exactly.
need healing from.
Exactly.
Awesome. Wow, powerful. I think Deacon Chambers put something in the chat saying thank you or something of the sort.
Thank
And he
you.
said,
He says he's looking forward to me spending time in Jamaica and sharing my awesomeness. Honey, I look forward to coming to Jamaica and spreading all this awesomeness and getting all this sun and this love, honey. So we'll have to plan that. We could do a whole retreat.
oh, yeah, Mama, you're welcome here. Come home.
So thank you, and thank you for joining us live, Robin, and each and every one of you for having
Yes,
the
thank you
openness
all.
and the willingness to just have the courage to learn more about yourself and to improve your life and your relationships. So I thank each and
Right.
every one of you.
Awesome. Know yourself, your self worth. Look out for the red flags. Don't jump in thinking it's love. Not
Exactly.
necessarily love. It's a dire lesson, and that lesson might just cripple you. So you have to be careful, you know? So know who is it you're entertaining and at what level you're entertaining them. Sarita, thank you so much for
Mwah.
passing.
Thank
Mm,
you
all
all,
the
and
best. God
please
bless
take
you.
care of yourself.
All right, Sarita.
You deserve it. Bye-bye.
Bye bye. Thank you so much. I mean, come on now, trauma and all these things. A lot of us don't even know about trauma, you know, and the impact or the effect it's having on our individual lives as a person, holding us back, not allowing us to excel and to do great work. You know, it's crazy. It's crazy. Trauma bonds, it's all there. It's all there. And on that note, remember, get your lifetime access recording. It's available. All of these values there. And I'm going to say another quote, another food for thought quotation. A broken heart, and this is by J.S.B. Morse. A broken heart is just the growing pains necessary so that you can love more completely when the real thing comes along. So think about that. Food for thought. J.S.B. Morse says, a broken heart is just the growing pains necessary so that you can love more completely when the real thing comes along. Awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. For people to get a lifetime access recording.